Well, good morning. Welcome to today's edition of Watercolor Workshop. This is a program presented by the Loudoun County Public Library System. My name is Jeremy, and I'm one of the Adult Services Programming Coordinators for LCPL, and I'll be your host this morning. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to use the chat box at the bottom of the screen, and I will pass them along to our artists. We're really happy to have Megha Mehra here today. She's an award-winning artist specializing in still life and realistic watercolors. Today, she's going to guide us through the steps to paint a delicious-looking cupcake. Thanks for being here today, Megha.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. And what a day to paint a cupcake. It's so cold outside, and I wish I could have this cupcake right now. But unfortunately, we're going to paint it, not eat it. But I hope you have your coffee with you. And yeah, just get started on this beautiful morning with some art. I think it's the best way to begin your day. Um, I know everybody has work and kids and stuff, but if you can take out some time in the morning to do something that you like, I think it makes your day. You feel so much more in control of your day. So, this is what we have to paint today, a cupcake. And I know it sounds very delicate and how we're going to paint this colorful image, but I'm going to give you certain tips how you can approach this painting and make it look as real as possible. So get on started with your drawing, and once we're done with the drawing, I'll explain how to approach this painting, a few tips and a few tricks and some painting techniques, and then we'll get started. A cupcake, I know, can sound very daunting, but these sweet little things are so much fun to paint. Let me show you how I can approach this painting, how to first envision this painting. There's so much going on here. You can see all the colors that are splattered and this giant thing sitting here. So, how do you really approach this or vision is like how I'm going to pick the colors? Which should I start first, the top or the bottom, or these confetti that's used as a decoration? So the first thing what we're going to do is think this as a form of just shapes and values. Shapes, as you can see, what shape it is. It's a semicircle, it's a circle, it's an oval, it's a parallel line. Those are shapes. And values, you can say these are values. I can show you what values mean. For example, this is one color. This is just like orange. And if I pick more paint and less water, this is another value. So the whole painting can be thought as the lighter value, something that's here, and the darker value, that's something here. So no matter what color you pick, think of in terms of lightness and darkness. Now, how do I start this painting? Well, you can start in any way you want. You can do the background first or the foreground first. It just depends on what the artist feels. I'm going to keep it simple by first going um, this area and then later this area because I can let this dry and then work on this area. Um, Now, colors. Okay, what colors you want to use? This is almost like very light browns or light yellows, not something like this. This is like a lemon yellow. So more very subdued. So you can say very earthy colors like raw sienna. This is raw sienna, and these are the colors we can use. Okay. The other colors that you can use here is okay, like the greens and the pinks and the red. One last thing to make this cupcake or this object look three-dimensional or real is you have to think about the edges. Just look here. This soft cream or the frosting on top of it is, you can really tell it's soft. So when we are going to paint this, it's going to be very soft, like wet on wet techniques. We cannot have hard edges here. Okay. However, this confetti you can see it's got really hard edges. You can see the real crisp shape of it. Same thing goes with this. This is soft and this is hard. So you want to make sure these edges are matching. Otherwise, they will not look three-dimensional. These are soft again. The paper lining or these shapes you see. The last thing you see, the cupcake, the bottom. These are hard edges. So you can feel that the cupcake is placed on a tabletop or some surface. So again, something to observe. When you start painting this area, you can see that this is lighter, lighter, it goes darker, darker, darker. As you go darker, the yellows and the browns start into darker browns, right? And it gets darker and darker and darker. This transition is again very important. Same. Why is this transitioning? Because the light is hitting here. This is where the light is hitting. So wherever the light is hitting, it's lighter. Wherever is the shadow area, it's darker. Something to keep in mind. Okay, and that's why you can see this is because of the light. Okay, so just few things to observe, and this really helps create a vision of how you're going to approach the painting. Of course, when you start painting, that's when you actually start seeing the things in action. But I always take a few minutes to really observe, and this comes with practice. You have to give it some time so that you can plan it well, and then you can be happy with your results. So now we can start painting because we have a little bit of idea of how to approach this painting. Okay, the whites we're going to leave as it is. I'll tackle it in the end, what to do with it. But for now, we're going to keep it clean white, not going to paint anything on it. Okay, so let's get started. I have my black and white picture here because I always see how much light or how much dark to go. So this is my reference black and white picture, and then we can get started. Now you can see we'll go from this end. Okay, so let's start with some raw sienna. Okay, paint a very light mixture because we're going to make it light. Some more mixes, you can keep it ready, like the browns. This is burnt sienna. I have this, it's almost like a Van Dyck brown, like a very really dark brown. You can mix it with, if you mix burnt sienna and blue, you can make this dark mixture. But I already have in the tube, so I'm just going to use it. Okay, some greens. Some yellows. Some nice reds. Okay, so let's get started. Okay. I'm going to keep it super light. Remember, you can always add color. Try to keep your strokes in one direction. I think it was too much brown. I'm just going to lift it a little bit. I just need a bit of yellow. Yeah, sorry. Just some bit of yellow here. Same. The next adjacent, it's almost like a parallel line, you can say. And again, I'm going to keep it super light. Keep some space in between. You can see there's a space there. Bit of yellow. I'm going to just mix it. Again, going on top. Can add a bit of yellow here. And I'm going to keep going with adding some variations of yellow and some brown. Doesn't have to be perfect. While it's still wet, I can take a bit of darker. As we're getting closer, it's getting more darker. You add a tinge of red just to make it a little different. I know it can get very confusing, like where are the lines? So I'm just taking my time to see exactly where I'm painting. Yeah. A good way to do is you can put some cross marks on these white lines so that you don't paint there. But yeah, I'm trying to keep a track about how they look. Basically all warm colors. And keep going one by one, leaving a tiny bit of space in between. Add a bit, tiny bit of red. We'll use a darker brown in the end a bit because I can see some dark areas already starting here. Too much water. Okay. Continue the same sequence and keep going with alternating colors of brown and yellow. You can make it a bit darker in the end by adding that really dark brown, just the way you can see. Keep continuing. With some darker areas. And see, I'm just leaving all the white spaces as it is. I'm not going to disturb them for now. We'll take care of them later. For now, my goal is to go around it and paint. Just going the same way. With some darks every now and then. This is really mind-boggling because I keep getting confused what's on my side. But yeah, I'm just being patient. The only other way to deal this confusion is you cover the other white areas with some masking fluid so you don't end up painting in those areas. But I know not everybody has masking fluid, and then it'll just take longer to dry and finish the painting. So I refrain from using the masking fluid in the workshop. Then maybe you can try one day, probably help to tackle the painting better. See, while we're coming, I'm going to reduce the yellows, and on this side, try to be more on the dark brown side. Slowly, I'm going to add the dark areas. Also, it gets really thinner and slimmer as you come on the side. That's important to notice. It's too dark. So I'm just darkening these base areas. You can see all the dark brown while it's still wet because it'll just help the paint flow better. Some dark browns here. And for now, I'm going to just leave this area. Okay. So we almost got the base here. We might have to go back and add some darks. If it's wet, I can add it now, but otherwise I'll just leave it. You can also add some blues mixed to it just to make it more dark. Yeah. So we'll leave this now and then we'll go on to the top part, but I'll give you guys a minute to catch up. If you have any questions, please let us know. We'll go on the top in a minute. Okay. Now, as you can see, this part, this is, you can say it looks very soft and textured here. So you can see there are some places where there's some empty spaces, which we are going to leave in this side to make it look like crummy. So again, I'm going to take some raw sienna, maybe mix a little bit with the other yellow. Okay. I'm going to leave some empty spaces here. And I'm going to completely cover this area with this yellow. It's going to be light. Okay. While it is still wet, I can do some of that burnt sienna, actually mixed with that yellow, a tinge of red, actually, kind of an orange mixture. Okay. And I'm going to go in here. Give this almost like a outline so that you can see the differentiation between the layers. I'm going to continue here. We add a bit of brown. And I'm just going to create this texture by not painting the whole area, leaving some spaces in between. in kind of a zigzag manner. Because I need a little darker outline, I'm going to darken this mixture that I created with yellow burnt sienna with a little more of this dark brown. And I just need to go over it because I need to create that layer. It differentiates the other layers. And again, around this white areas, you can just add a bit of red here. Yeah. Now I can just create these darker areas. It almost gives like the feeling of the groove here. Take a bit of red just to give this nice color. Okay. We can leave this area like this for now. I'll give you guys a minute to catch up and then we'll start building this layer and finally on the top, the cherry. Okay, we're just building layers and then later we're going to tackle this area again and a little bit of background here. Just give you guys a minute to catch. Okay. Now, how we do the soft areas? Or if you want to name it, it's the frosting. But if you keep saying it's a frosting, you're going to mess up. So just keep it very simple. We're going to take one of this pinks here. Keep it super, super, super light. Okay. And also I'm going to make a small purple mixture here. More on the pink side. Okay. And I'm going to take a very light mixture, very light, which means a lot of water and very less paint. Okay. Keep going. Again on the top. I'm going to leave some white space where you can see. Actually, I would suggest a thinner brush here, smaller brush. I think I just got carried away with this brush and now it's going into other layers. So I need to switch my brush. Same thing. I'm going to keep it super light. And this is going to be the lightest. Keep going with those pinks. Okay. And while it's still wet, I'll go ahead and take that tinge of purple and add some areas here, like a shadow area. Okay. It's very little, very tinge of blue. It's not much. I'll take that purple again, but this time a little dry. I don't want it too much watery. Okay, and need a bit of outlining here. Same. Again, just to separate those areas. It's more on the pink side, actually, less on the purple, but just there's a slight mix in it. It's too wet, so I think I'm going to wait. It's just mingling, so I'll just wait. In the meanwhile, you can go up and finish this cherry. Again, it's just, you can use a red, but just remember there are some areas here which is not painted. So I'm going to leave it as it is. So I'm going to take this nice red, like a scarlet red. Okay, and I'm going to be very careful when I paint in this area. Make it nice and dark. Okay. This end, I can make it more darker. Yeah, that's good. You can see things are coming together now. Things are looking like a cupcake, but we still have some work to do. So I'll just give it a minute to dry, and then we can work on this area and later on this area. So one thing important to notice here is now this white, you can say the paper lining or the small areas, they're not completely white. This side is quite white because the light is hitting. But as you go, starts to get a little grayer, right? So we're going to definitely put a coat of paint, which is very light, but you'll see the difference how it looks as it goes into the shadow area. I want this to dry because I'm going to start to put some paint after this, but only when it's dry. And before that, we can start mixing colors for all this confetti. So let's make a big mixture because we're going to work a little quick on this. I'm going to mix all the dark greens. If you don't have any, then just take it from the tube. I have a lot of tubes that I've not been using, so I think I'm going to use the tube here. And all the colors that you can think can make it look pretty. It should look like confetti, right? Some ultramarine blue. Okay. So some blue. I'm going to take this soft blue to make it dark. Okay. And I have yellow. So you can take this colors and start painting here. But this yellow on top of it has almost like a shadow. So I'm going to take a little bit of, I think, so dry here inside the room that it keeps drying. On top of it, almost like a darker yellow. Bit of red that almost like continues with that cherry. Greens. Maybe too dark. And then, yeah, it needs to be dark. Blue. Green. Again, just keep alternating those colors. And you can make it any color actually, purple, whatever you like. But yeah, as long as you can see those colors. Some yellow. Again, you can see wherever I can see purples. Greens again. Nice light blue. Okay. When we come down here, we're going to same throw these colors, but just see the difference here. This is almost like zoomed out. So these are going to be very soft. So I'm going to drop these colors when it's wet. So first we need to put a nice wash here, almost like a gray wash. So you're going to take some blue and some brown. I'm going to put it here because I don't have place for mixing colors now. Yeah, I think that's good. Just need a little more blue. I'm going to just wet this area slightly okay, around the confetti. If it goes in it, it's okay. That's fine. Because it's such a light wash, it won't really matter much. But I'll try to move around it. A little more on this side. Okay. And while this is still wet, let's start dropping colors here. Okay. Same, whatever you have on the palette doesn't have to be perfect. So it look really soft when you add these because the edges are going to just melt into each other. Some purples. Some blues. And later you can give them a little bit of shape. I think they went too much. Maybe I need to wait. Yeah, this is okay. Not too wet. I'm just looking the colors and throwing in whatever I see. Yeah, I think this is good. Okay. And if you see, every confetti has like a shadow, like a darker shadow of the color. If it's purple, it's dark purple. If it's green, it's dark green. Okay. All right. Next, what we can do is finish this part. So I'm just going to take some of this yellow and some of that brown in really thin layers and cover it. Of that brown. I'm going to keep it thin. And if you like, even a little bit of blue is fine. Okay. So we can start with this side. Be very careful not to disturb those other layers when you're painting. Make sure your brush is not making too much noise. Otherwise, it feels like, okay, you're just taking away all the lower layers of the painting that's or paints that already been there. A little bit darker on this side. Darker on the bottom as well. Now you can see that how much more darker this needs to be. So I'm just going to add a little more darkness to these areas. Okay. Some nice warmth here. You can add a bit of red. Just a bit of dark here. And take a bit of that pink or red mixture and finish this. Okay. Just a few adjustments. I can see there's a small shadow area here, so I'm going to add some shadow here of purples. Same with this. Okay. I'm going to let this dry because now I want to give this structure, this object, a base. Okay, so we need some darks here. To finish it. Just softening this with a brush. Just give me a minute and then we can create that. And for that, we just need to mix. I think 2 colors are fine. It's going to be really dark. So the dark brown and some blue. Okay. But it's quite wet, so I don't want to touch it. So I'll just give it a minute. In the meantime, we can just see if we need some other layers. Actually, we do. We need to cover this top part with some really light grays here. The gray that we mixed with brown and blue. Now we need to go over really light. Yeah. Now this will look different on this side. Okay. I'm going to start from this side actually, because this is the darker side. It's the shadow side. A little far, but that's okay. Yeah. And I'm just gonna take some of that color and just move it. Now you can see that. You can see the shadow there, the base, which is very important. Otherwise, it will just look like it's floating in thin air. And you can check if you need more confetti to make it look pretty. Some more heart shapes of that confetti. You can take your purples, greens, some of the yellows. Just to give some warmth to it, some yellows here and there. Yeah, some yellow on this side too. Just trying to join these connections here with some warm colors. So they just mingle. Okay. I think this looks good. We almost finished the painting. And you can see that it's not that hard to paint a cupcake if you really understand how to mix colors, if you understand where to put what, and how to approach this painting.